We believe that the real estate markets that had tanked 2 years ago is showing, there are a lot of green shoots, it's showing signs of revival. And it's not that revival does not mean values are going up. Revival means that there are lots and lots of people who are looking for houses, and there are lots of you who are actually constructing the houses, completing it, and handing it over to the end users. Any market that's driven by an end user is always a market where the end user is very demanding. It's not that he pays the highest rates, he's very conscious of value for money. But the end user looks for certain things which constitute livability. Transport links, social infrastructure like schools, hospitals, hotels, entertainment centers, retail malls, that's the second thing that they look for. The third is how livable is it? Are the roads well linked to the master roads? Is there a metro link? Is there a rail link? How soon can they travel to the commercial hubs, the educational hubs? All this matters to the end user. When it's an investor puts his money in a 3 BHK apartment. But an end user says, ये मेरा घर है, मुझे यहाँ रहना है, पानी है, बिजली है, सड़क है. These things matter. And I thought that as agents, all of you are dealing with the end users. They come to you as advisors. You are the first level of advisors for any end user. Recently, Magic Bricks and ET did a survey, and we spoke to a very large number of people. What we found is 50% of people who intend to buy have not even started looking yet. Why? Because they are intimidated. Buying a house is a frightfully difficult decision for a person who has limited amount of money. How can we make it easier for them? How can we help them understand what are the things that you should be considering when you buy a house? And that is the reason why we are organizing these agent, developer, consultant meets across cities. And this is the 6th meet that we are organizing. And we've had a very good response to all of them. Once we do this meet, we record the meet and we put it on our YouTube channel. And these are very well studied by the end users. So let's talk about Navi Mumbai. Why have I come to Navi Mumbai and not to Mumbai? Because across the downturn, the one market that kept chugging along, where that consumers kept searching for properties, is the Navi Mumbai market. Probably because you understood that you were not overpricing your properties, you were not giving mansions and where you could play football in your drawing room, but you were offering houses for end users who were mostly first-time users or people who were looking for, they were graduating from a rental to a ownership status. And this is, if the consumer is here, I think we should be able to understand what are the new drivers of this market. This market has plenty of drivers. You have a new airport coming, you have the new high-speed rail link coming, you have a metro link coming, you have flyovers, roads and so on. And therefore we said, let's talk to you guys who are on the ground and let's figure out what are the drivers. So let me start with you. What are the drivers of this market? As a research person, he's studying markets and his perspective is very interesting.
Sure. I hope I'm audible. First of all, Jeffrey very rightly pointed out that any market which is driven by end user tends to kind of have a very robust, rounded growth, unlike markets where specialists trade. So there are few factors. If an end user is looking at and what Navi Mumbai has to offer. For example, let's say if I have to just give you a brief background about Navi Mumbai, it's one of the world's largest well-planned cities, and the advantage is that it has 45% of green space. So apart from value, what Navi Mumbai provides is better quality of living compared to cities like Mumbai. So earlier, Navi Mumbai was considered as a very distant option who could not afford in Mumbai, but that's changing with good infrastructure coming up, your new airport being announced, your metro connectivity increasing, and if you look at the JNPT terminal coming up, Trans Harbour coming up, so these are all adding to the appeal of well-connected hub of residential development. And then you have a lot of commercial interest arising. You have a lot of IT parks coming up. You have a lot of retail space that are being taken up. So now, if a residential buyer has to look at social infrastructure is quite better. It's kind of developing. Your employment opportunities increasing by these commercial spaces being taken up by a lot of IT parks and ITES. Connectivity is adding to it because now it is well connected with Mumbai and then we talk about Pune. So it's a well-rounded growth that the city is witnessing. And then there's a small catch to it. Now, for example, let's say, as rightly pointed out, once the speculators or let's say investors, they enter the market, things go, haywire. The value proposition is lost. We have seen this playing out in, Delhi and Sierra Leone, infrastructure and everything was good. So we as stakeholders, what I have been always talking in my various forums is that we should ensure that Navi Mumbai is not heavily played out by speculative investors, so that the value proposition is maintained. So in my opinion, I think we are at a very right point of the growth where Navi Mumbai has clearly kind of made a mark not as a second option of revenue, but as a destination itself. So I think we are looking at great times ahead.
So Manohar, who is the buyer in Navi Mumbai today?
Today, November buyers is actually users. Investors, most of the investors are out of the market because appreciation is not there since last 3 years. And prices have still corrected also. And actually users are buying. And properties ranging from 25 lakhs to 1.5 crores, properties are selling. And the premium segment is little slow. Premium segment there is a little pressure. Properties worth 4 crores, 5 crores, 6 crores. There is little pressure, or exclusive premium properties which are going about 18 crores, 20 crores, that is selling, but that is once in a while. So a lot of actual users, they are buying now. Cisco recently launched a housing scheme and Cisco has received 35,000 applications, and out of 35,000, 10,000 people are already paid the money. So we expect the Cisco will get a response of around 150,000 applications for this 15,000 flats. So there is a lot of demand in affordable housing, and especially like maid servants, drivers, other vegetable vendors, they are buying for small houses. Private builders are most of the builders.
That is under the PMAY?
Yeah, that is the PMAY scheme, and they are going to get the benefit, and the Cisco is planning to come another 25,000 houses. So there is a lot of response for affordable housing. And prices, as far as private builders are concerned, prices are corrected a little bit. 15 to 20% prices have corrected in some parts, especially in luxury housing. And right now we are marketing properties worth 25 lakhs to 50 lakhs.
Julie, let me understand who is the consumer that you are catering to, and what are the main demands that they have?
We mostly catering to middle to higher middle income group. So, Navi Mumbai has always been that part of Mumbai which, welcomes migrants. So, you have a lot of migration taking place from other places around India to Mumbai, where these individuals migrate and then they, once they settle down, they bring in their families. So, Navi Mumbai is that one part of Mumbai which has always catered to these demands. And now the customer base that I am looking at, I cater to, is mostly people from different states who have actually, got into these good jobs over here and are looking at a plus one kind of a house. So they are not first time home buyers that I'm dealing with. They know how to go about a home purchase, and then they know what they are looking at. And that's what we are also aiming at, giving them what they want with as much clarity and transparency as possible.
So Rajesh, when a person buys a house, earlier it was a house that you were selling. Today it's a lifestyle that people are looking for. So help me understand, how do you has your pitch to the consumer changed?
Yeah, right. Good afternoon. Yeah. So just like the other panelists have said, earlier Navi Mumbai was a destination of compulsion. So people with the budgeted requirements that I have so much budget and I have to buy 2 houses for 2 brothers. something like that. So these people used to be coming here out of compulsion. Now Navi Mumbai is not a destination of compulsion, but it's a destination of choice. So people are coming here because they have seen the green spaces, like is pointed out. 45% is open land, including artisans and wetlands and gardens, etc., mangroves. So, living spaces there, huge gardens, huge open spaces. At that point of time, it was huge roads also, but now it's changing because there's a lot of people coming. But yes, we never have any traffic jams out here, and now since there is without signal, no signal route from Manpur right up to Panvel. So reaching from one end, and from Vashi to Panvel does not take more than 30 minutes. Nowadays it's a little problematic because of the potholes. But otherwise it's when we go to our sister, elder sister, you can say, or elder brother in the next town, we shudder literally that how will we reach? So much traffic from west to east in the next town. So all these are the things, the facilities which make a person, because earlier people used to say Navi Mumbai is quite far, we will not go there. Once they come and they see and then they walk around Navi Mumbai, they feel so impressed by the infrastructure out here that they really feel that yes, they have to come and live here. And now there is no dearth of any amenity in Navi Mumbai, be it gardens, be it malls, be it shopping areas. So all international brands are here. So we don't feel like going to Mumbai for any work. So what we do is, at this point of time, we are telling the consumers as a establishment that come here to Navi Mumbai and you'll get every facility out here. And plus you have a very good lifestyle. You don't end up spending 2 or 3 hours of your life daily in commuting. So that's a very big plus point which Navi Mumbai has. And plus so many of the new infrastructure. I believe in this 25 square kilometers area to the center of Navi Mumbai, government is going to spend more than 1 lakh crores of rupees on infrastructure, approximately that much. So I believe this is the most, in India, if I can say, that a small area of 25 square kilometers attracting this much huge funds in infrastructure. So there's going to be, these are things which are attracting people to Navi Mumbai.
So Chirag, the people who live in Navi Mumbai, where do they live? Where are they coming from?
I've got clients coming from Balkeshwar shifting to Navi Mumbai thinking that, Navi Mumbai will be a place where you can just have a good life and stay away from the hustle and bustle of the main Mumbai city.
Do they work here? Do they work here and live here? Or are there people who work in other cities and choose it for all the reasons that you say?
Some of my clients actually I've been catering to the luxury segment in around Palm Beach Road. So most of my clients have been someone who is already in Navi Mumbai but looking for an upgrade. So there's no availability of affordable housing, whether in Mumbai or even outside of Mumbai, say in Thane. So the only option that remains available is Navi Mumbai, and that to the outskirts of Navi Mumbai. I believe there are several developers who are concentrating in providing affordable housing on the outskirts of Navi Mumbai. And I think this is going a long way.
Let's open it out to the audience now. And I like, we've got a mic that's coming around. You are the guys who talk to people on the ground. What do consumers want? Who are they? What age group are they from? It would be nice to get your viewpoint before we go on with the discussion. Who would like to talk? You can talk in any language you like.
Yes. Yes.
So that, can I add something?
Yes.
So,
There was a talk that end users are the only people who are buying.
Yeah.
And investors have gone away from the market. So it is not like that. Yeah, bulk buying investors have moved away.
Yeah.
But Navi Mumbai is very unique in the sense that most of the people who have come here have gained here, have grown here.
Yeah.
And their very thought process is about property. So even if that person has one property, he will be definitely looking out for another property. So we have people who are buying not because they want to use it, but they want to invest somewhere, or maybe 10 years down the line I'll give it to my child who is growing. So these kind of investors are still there. One flat investor, if you can say that.
The future end users.
Future end users. Yeah, that is a better term. So these are the investors who are still there in the market, and that is very good for Navi Mumbai.
partners, it's your program. Please participate.
Yeah, please participate.
Yes.
कि जो इनके सर्विसेज वगैरह बोल सकते हैं या इनके लीड्स बोल सकते हैं, एकदम जेन्युइन लीड्स, जेन्युइन बायर, और बहुत बायर ट्रस्ट कर रहे हैं मैजिक ब्रिज के ऊपर, क्योंकि जैसे ये कंडक्ट प्रोग्राम है वैसे बहुत नॉलेजेबल प्रोग्राम फॉर एंड यूजर के लिए भी है, ब्रोकर के लिए भी है. थैंक यू. थैंक यू.
Okay, let's come back and we'll take it back to the audience again. We've talked about who the buyer is. The buyer is sometimes an end user, the buyer is sometimes somebody who's buying for the future. And he's roughly between 35 to about 45 years of age. And the price bracket, like Manohar said, he said 30 lakhs to about 1.5 crore. Across India, the sweetest spot in the market today is 30 lakh to about 60 lakh. That is what is selling across markets. If that is so, which are the parts of Navi Mumbai that you think are most conducive to that kind of growth? Prashant?
So, as see the kind of option that Navi Mumbai has, it's very, quite liberal. So there are a few growth corridors which, as per data point if we see. So if we see, if you look at the budget segment, but before I move, there was a question about somebody asked that how do we approach the buyer investor. I think if time permits, I would answer that first and then move to it. The way that consumers have graduated, we need to have a different approach. Now, for example, we are also in the business of buying and selling property. So when we approach an end user, we need to highlight about the value that he is getting currently right now, not which will he will derive after 5 or 10 years. So if you show him that there are ample amounts of ready to move in apartment, there are existing infrastructure like school, colleges, and property, I think the interest gets generated. But if you talk to him about after 5 years this airport will get functional and then the demand will come, I think he will get the bad memories of other investments that he would have made somewhere else and going to stay there. So this pitch should not be given to any end user. We talk about the current benefit that is going to draw.
Talk about today, talk about the lifestyle, talk about the house that he's buying.
Yeah. And now again, the investor who are kind of ready to wait for a longer term and who have enough money to play, they would buy the pitch of the future benefit that this infrastructure benefit would provide. So I think that pitch should be given to the investor. The moment we mix these two, I think we get into a chance of losing that customer. So this is very important. I thought before.
I'll add to that. Remember, Navi Mumbai already has investors who bought on the promise of an airport and who did not get what. A lot of people from Ulve, for instance, are extremely disgruntled because they bought on the promise of an airport which never happened. So selling on a future promise, like Prashant said, is not the best idea. There are a lot of infrastructure drivers that are coming in which will aid the quality of life. Maybe that is what you should be concentrating on. There's a high-speed rail network, there's metro, all that adds to the quality of your life and the connectivity to the parent city. And that is something that you should do.
Yeah. Now coming to the growth corridors where we have seen a lot of activities is definitely our Aeroli, Ghansali and Cobra and that area, which derives a lot of intrinsic value from the employment opportunity in and around. Now, if we also look at Vashi, it has a very limited supply, and kind of the potential and the kind of interest that we are seeing is quite good. And if we talk about upper mid segment, that we have your seafood area, which is I've seen not many clients of ours who are really invested in Mumbai and they want to expand. They are looking at these markets. So as I pointed out, we have all the budget range where we can pitch. So I think these are the growth corridors which we should focus on coming right now.
What are the commercial drivers of Navi Mumbai? What are the commercial nodes which drive the residential? Would you like to talk about it?
So as far as commercial node is concerned, CBD Belapur is the main this. Earlier it was Vashi. Vashi was known as DBC, District Business Center. Now the entire focus on central business is that is CBD Belapur. Here we have two sectors, sector 7, sector 11, sector 15. Lot of eating places have come over there, and we are doing a very good business in CBD Belapur. And a lot of leads have increased from 100 to 250 rupees per square feet on carpet area from the ground floor. And the commercial our offices are going from 50 to 60 rupees to up to 80 rupees, depends upon the quality of the building. So a lot of commercial activities going on, and we are expecting SIPCO to open another node in Khagar for commercial. Very soon they are going to launch this commercial projects in Khagar.
What about townships with new IT nodes? Is that also happening?
Yeah, a lot of IT nodes are coming up in the MIDC area, and a lot of big projects are already under operational, like by the areas in Airoli and all. So a lot of big IT parks have come, and a lot of nearly 25,000 employees are working over there. And because of this, there's a lot of residential demand in Kopakan and SSL in Airoli.
We've seen, if you take the growth of Mumbai, we saw it was Nariman Point, then it moved to BKC, then it moved to Thane, and Thane's growth actually started when the commercial hubs started coming up there. Similarly, do you see commercial impacting residential?
Absolutely. In fact, the airport alone is going to generate around 4 lakh jobs, in the coming years. Multinationals are coming in every day, new things you have in Navi Mumbai. So all this is actually directly going to impact real estate, residential properties. When there are offices, there have to be residential spaces also for the employees, which is how it is. In fact, in Kharghar, the commercial focus has increased over the last 3 to 4 years. It's a study by JLL and Analog and Blackstone. So this again reminds me that what are the things that a buyer is actually looking at. Proximity to his workplace is one of the things which they look at. The connectivity again comes into play in that matter. So that's how the job creation will actually be, the reason for a boost for the residential spaces, and that is going to happen ultimately because of the commercial market. So it's all interlinked.
What are the things that you would like to see change in Navi Mumbai, Rajesh? In terms of policy, in terms of speed of construction, what are the things that you would like to see change?
Yeah. Before I answer that, I would like to add to the point Julie made. Yes, commercial does definitely impact the residential sales, and we have seen the IT parks in MIDC driving residential sales in the Airoli, like the said by Manoj Rao. And also, now I would like to point out about one very major driver which is coming in, that is the JNPT SEZ in 277 hectares. And that is going to be a very big game changer, because already I think there are six plots which have been sold. 2014, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi had inaugurated it, that point of time itself there was a lot of interest generated in the South Navi Mumbai area. So that area, like the South Navi Mumbai in the sense Ulve, Dronagiri and that area. So a good amount of I think the projection is of 50,000 jobs coming in, 60,000. crores of investment coming in that area. So that area of south of Navi Mumbai, including Dronagiri and Ulve, will definitely see a lot of small team buying. Even if you consider 20% of those 50,000 people buying houses or renting it out, you can imagine the kind of demand that will be created. So coming to policy changes, yes, a little more transparency, ease of doing business is very much required in Navi Mumbai. Basically, NMMC has gone leaps and bounds ahead from as compared to SIDCO. SIDCO was a parent body. Navi Mumbai Municipal Corporation with all its political, interference or whatever, but still it is. If you go to see, there's a lot of the speed at which the planning, the approvals are taking place, the commencement certificates, the proceeds, the approvals, all of these online systems. So these are quite better in NMFC, and I think they have overtaken somewhere SIDCO in those areas. So SIDCO needs to gear up and do a lot more than just giving online OPAS system which they are using. Plus clearance of files, a better, faster method by which the files may be cleared. The mindset, basically the mindset of the officials needs to change. Whatever may be the policies, if the officer is bent on saying no, he can take out n number of difficulties or obstacles in your file. And if the officer has a mindset that yes, I'm here to supplement or complement development, and there may be every file has some of the other problem. This is real estate, so something or the other is definitely there. So if the officer's mindset basically has to change from no development to a pro development kind of attitude. If that changes, whatever are the policies, we can see better results coming out. But more important is the mindset of the officer.
And that's a big statement to make, because across the country, if I think with RERA coming in, the consumer feels that the consumer is protected, and that's why the consumer has come back to the buying desk. He's sitting across the tables with you, asking you what's available. But what's actually holding the industry back in most places is the approvals processes.
Approvals process, and what has happened here is, RERA has made it, it's coming hugely on the developers, but the people on whom we are dependent, that is the approving authorities, they are spot free, and that is where we do not have any hold or we cannot do anything about it. So, in fact, after RERA, they know that this is the time you have given, and we are in for a very bad days here. That is what we feel, because authorities know that now it's just on a click of a button. You know what is the end date you have given, what is the delivery date you have given, and an officer can blackmail you to a very big extent. So that is one fear which is very prominently there in all the developers. And we are trying our best to convince RERA that they should also rope in the approving authorities in their fold. Like they have done it for, and there is a provision in RERA by which they can do it. It's only a matter of time. I think in Maharashtra, which Government Secretary has given a white paper to the government, it seems, and they should come up with something. But the faster, the sooner, the better.
Just to add, so while he has concerns about finance movement at a decent speed in SIDCO, I think with SIDCO now coming out with a policy to convert leases into perpetual leases and also doing away with the requirement of transfer fees, giving permission for mortgages without levying transfer fees, I think that is the policy that SIDCO has propounded, if I'm not wrong. Correct. So if this is the case, having things become a little more easier as compared to Mumbai or say Thane, that is one aspect why people consider, why people would consider Navi Mumbai, and also an assurance on titles. Most properties in Navi Mumbai, if you see, are held under a lease from Sitco. So to that extent, there's an assurance on title. You will have a certain amount of faith in the government's title. You wouldn't want to investigate or go beyond the government's title. So I think that is one more driving factor so far as Navi Mumbai is concerned.
Definitely, title is a very big positive for us in Navi Mumbai because, as rightly said, the title is with Sitco, and whoever has an agreement with Sitco, the title automatically flows to him, and there's no ambiguity as such. Regarding the first part of his this thing, he mentions that the lease from 60 years to 90 years these are all things in the offing. They have not yet come on the ground, still on the drawing board. So yes, when it comes on ground, it becomes a ground reality. Definitely, we will see a big spurt in people's attitude changing towards yes, the confidence level, because even now, when certain people who have adopted to the thing that yes, 60 years lease is fine for me, those people are quite comfortable. But for a person who is coming from Bombay or from other areas, and they find that it's a lease property, so they get a little subdued. Take a step back.
Even Hong Kong went back to China, right?
Yeah. So yes, this policy change, if it happens, it's going to be a game changer. Very, very positive.
Chirag, what are the new nodes of Navi Mumbai? What do you think are going to be the nodes of Navi Mumbai? There will be maximum consumer interest, and why?
Nodes like, I feel the nodes like Ulve, Dunagiri, Kamote, Khargar, Panvel are going to see a huge benefit due to the commercial infrastructure and the road infrastructure that is going to come in, say, like Trans Harbour Road and the Navi Mumbai Airport. I think those nodes are going to see huge improvement in terms of affordable housing. Mainly affordable housing, and going to be really beneficial for people opting in for PMAY, because people who are working and looking for a new house for themselves as the first owner, PMAY is a very good initiative that the government has taken. And I hope my builders, developer friends here can make use of that even more.
Yeah, actually, with PMAY, what we understand is that the CLSS, the Credit Linked Subsidy Scheme, is the one thing that has pushed a lot of first-time buyers to start buying. Roughly about 2,200 to 2,600 rupees of your EMIs is a big saving for most first-time buyers, and that seems to have spurred the buying. With the show of hands, how many of your consumers, how many of you feel that CLSS has been a driver in the market? How many of your consumers know about CLSS? Can you put up your hand? आप लोगों के कितने कंज्यूमर्स हैं जो क्रेडिट लिंक सब्सिडी स्कीम की वजह से घर खरीदने के लिए इंटरेस्टेड? कितने लोग होंगे यहाँ पे? आपके कंज्यूमर्स, हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू, आपके कंज्यूमर्स ने कितने लोगों ने CLSS के बारे में आपसे पूछा है? पूछा है? नहीं? Then now this is what I would like to focus on. अगर आपके कंज्यूमर CLSS के बारे में नहीं पूछ रहे हैं, जिसकी आमदनी 6 लाख तक है, वो अगर घर खरीदे तो 6.5% उसके मंथली EMI में फर्स्ट 6 लाख पे उसको एक सब्सिडी मिलती है, और गवर्नमेंट देती है। जो बैंक से अगर आपने लोन लिया है उस पर आपको एक सब्सिडी मिलती है, और वो सब्सिडी रफली अबाउट 2,600 रुपीज पर मंथ उनके EMI से घटता है, तो गवर्नमेंट सीधा उनके बैंक में देती है। अगर आप that's for all, anyone who has a income of first time buyer होना चाहिए, हाँ, जो फर्स्ट टाइम बायर है जिसकी आमदनी अगर 6 लाख तक है तो 6.5% सब्सिडी मिलती है। अगर उनकी आमदनी 12 लाख तक है तो उन्हें 4% सब्सिडी मिलती है, और अगर उनकी आमदनी 18 लाख तक है तो 3% सब्सिडी मिलती है। ये बहुत बड़ा स्कीम है और इसकी वजह से काफी
PMAY is also
PMAY एक अम्ब्रेला स्कीम है।
Sometimes this is that you will get 2.67 lakhs in your account.
2.1 yeah, right. 2.6 lakhs.
Directly that amount will be credited in your loan account.
Absolutely, and that translates into a 2,100 to 2,600 rupees subsidy in your monthly EMI till.
But they have to fall under the criteria of affordable housing. I believe 40 to 50 square meter is one bracket.
Today there is no size has been.
Okay. So initially it was there.
Yeah.
So that is for economically weaker sections. But you know, for most of the
LIG and MIG are the two categories.
So basically, MIG 1 and MIG 2 are 200 square meters of which translates into 500 square feet. I think most of the properties will come. And the price limit, the property price should not be more than 45 lakhs. So I think we have a lot of options in that.
No, it's gone above 45 lakh. If somebody with a income of 18 lakh gets a housing loan, they can buy up to 2,200 to 2,600 square feet.
Yeah. But the property price that they are buying should not be above 45 lakhs. So that was the paper we have submitted, that even if you are allowing me, this is the So in fact, we have written to the ministry saying that on the one hand you are increasing the size, which is closely to 200 square meters, and then you are restricting it. It's a very hidden clause. So if it's metro, it is 45 lakhs. Non-metro, it is the 35 lakh limit. In a way, you are nullifying the benefit. So this is something which where in the final print. But I mean, still I think.
If you listen to what the Prime Minister said, आप जितने मर्जी खर्चा कर सकते हैं, हमारे पास इतना सब्सिडी है, हम आपको सब्सिडी देंगे, आप घर खरीदिए। मगर अगर आपके कंज्यूमर्स आपसे CLSS के बारे में नहीं पूछ रहे हैं, आपका फर्ज बनता है कि आप उनको समझाएं, क्योंकि आप फर्स्ट लाइन है जिनके पास कंज्यूमर आता है। और अगर कंज्यूमर आता है और आप घर उनको दिखा रहे हैं, LIG हुआ, MIG 1 MIG 2 कहते हैं आजकल, और MIG 1 and 2 दोनों में CLSS सब्सिडी अगर आप फर्स्ट टाइम बायर हैं और आपकी आमदनी 18 लाख तक है तो आप एलिजिबल हैं।
फीमेल एप्लीकेंट also amended.
फीमेल एप्लीकेंट के लिए और जॉइंट एप्लीकेंट हो सकता है, एंड यू हैव टू फीमेल एप्लीकेंट्स के लिए ज्यादा इजी है, सब्सिडी है। तो आपको ये समझना चाहिए एज एडवाइजर्स, अगर आप लोग कंज्यूमर्स के साथ बात कर रहे हैं, देन यू शुड बी अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि इसका व्हाट इज द रैमिफिकेशन। गवर्नमेंट तो दे रही है, आप उनको समझाएं, एंड ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। इसीलिए हमने ये ऐसे इवेंट्स ऑर्गेनाइज किए हैं सो दैट एजेंट्स अंडरस्टैंड कि आप बहुत की रोल प्ले करते हैं इस इंडस्ट्री में। और आप अगर अपने बिल्डर्स के साथ बात करें, बिल्डर्स ऑलरेडी ऑफर कर रहे हैं, उनको समझा रहे हैं, आपके पास आए तो आप भी समझाएं। इट्स अ वेरी बिग थिंग।
So the GST on affordable housing is also reduced to 8%.
Yes.
But
that is below 600.
That's 30 and 60 square meters. And that GST, that amount of subsidy will be much bigger for people. But GST is something that we are going to talk about now.
Compared to other markets, this market still has buyers.
Yeah, we compared to Mumbai.
Compared to other markets, not to Mumbai or Pune or Pune, but yes, compared to the surrounding markets, Navi Mumbai ने काफी sustain किया। अभी भी लोग खरीद रहे हैं। There are markets where there are no buyers itself। लेकिन आज हम लोगों के यहाँ buyers इसलिए है क्योंकि हम लोग वो जो golden bracket है 30 to 60 lakhs, उसके बीच में हमारे यहाँ आता है। एक दूसरी बात, हम लोगों ने जो डेवलपर्स यहाँ काम कर रहे हैं, उन्होंने एक्सॉर्बिटेंटली अपने रेट्स नहीं बढ़ा दी। कोई 15,000 20,000 रुपया पर स्क्वायर फुट नहीं कर दिया। दे आर स्टिल अफोर्डेबल और लोगों के पॉकेट में वो सूट कर रहा है अभी भी। इसलिए उनका ये कहना था कि अभी भी यहाँ पे बायर मतलब रेट्स बढ़े नहीं है, बट ट्रांजैक्शंस हो रहे उनका कहना।
और कंज्यूमर इंटरेस्ट अभी भी है,
अभी भी लोग कंज्यूमर्स अभी भी आके पूछ रहे हैं कि आपके पास 2 BHK है क्या, क्या रेट है क्या नहीं, तो इंक्वायरीज अभी भी है। दैट इज व्हाट शी इज।
और कई मार्केट्स ऐसे हैं जहां इंक्वायरीज पूरी तरह से बंद हो गए। आपके मार्केट में कभी भी इंक्वायरी पूरी तरह से बंद नहीं हुआ था। एज अ रिजल्ट यू गाइस हैव बीन इन बिजनेस। कई जगह मार्केट्स ऐसे हैं जहां एजेंट्स का बिजनेस पूरी तरह ठप हो गया था क्योंकि कंज्यूमर्स ने खरीदना ही बंद कर दिया था पूरी तरह से। That was the point I was making. The second point I was making is जो आपकी जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट आए हैं, इसकी वजह से जो लोग कहते थे कि नवी मुंबई बहुत दूर है और यहाँ पे मैं नहीं रह सकता या नहीं रह सकती, वो भी नवी मुंबई को कंसिडर करने लगे हैं क्योंकि डिस्टेंसेस को इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर श्रिंक कर रहा है। आप अगर आप मुंबई में भी रहते हैं, थाने में भी काम करते हैं, आप वहाँ easily commute कर सकते हैं once these infrastructure links are complete.
One thing. Yeah.
Now, Mr. What's your name, sir?
Prashant.
Prashant, you said that you don't tell them about the future, whatever present situation is there about the property, that only you tell them. Now, sometimes we are selling the flats in budget segment, means around 25 to 30 lakhs, which is getting suppose from Panvel to 7 to 8 kilometers area. That is a little bit remote area, like a village area. So what we can explain there?
No. So when I said you have to balance it out. See, if I'm looking for my end use, मुझे अभी घर चाहिए, and you start telling me this is the airport is going to come, this IT zone will come, which will drive employment, that would not interest me. But if like say हमें judge करना पड़ता है इसको. This is what we as agents do, or consultants do. Now, if you see that he has some kind of waiting period. Now, for example, let's do a role. For example, आप मेरे पास आते हो and you say कि ठीक है मैं 1 साल wait कर सकता हूँ, आपके पास क्या option? And then you slowly tell him the option that okay, this is the option where the growth is coming in 5 years or 6 years, and tell him the true picture. Because what has happened now, consumer has access to so much of information, unlike the earlier days. He comes with a lot of preparation. And at that time, if you try to play around with him, because see, as brokers, we might have interest in selling some properties which would suit our preference in terms of we might get higher brokerage over there, but that might not suit the clients currently. So we as agents, see, the industry is evolving, the consumers have evolved. So we as frontline guys, we also need to evolve in our approach. We need to be more customer centric. We need to be very honest and transparent in our approach. The day has gone where you can push anything to your buyer. The day has gone. You have to be very honest, tell him, and learn to walk away from deals which is not in the benefit of the consumer. And trust me, the consumer, if he really wants to buy, will definitely come back to a person who has advised him the right thing to do. So try to incorporate these kind of customer centric behavior. Refrain from just pushing the deal, but try to see what is the value proposition that you offer, and it will be a win-win situation for both the buyers as well as us. I think that's the way we need to evolve. Every other aspect is evolving. The industry is evolving because of RERA. The builders are evolving. We see a lot of foreign players coming in, putting their money. We have seen buyers. Trust me, the buyers, the kind of questions they ask, I think we are also at times taken aback. So I think it's time that we as property advisors need to kind of upgrade and become more customer centric. So this would be my answer to your question.
In fact, as Magic Bricks, we have been advising consumers. अपना होमवर्क करो, अपने एजेंट से पूछो. अगर एक एजेंट ने आपको बताया, आप चेक कर लो. It's okay to check with 1 or 2 agents. मगर जो एजेंट बताता है, उसको आप टैली करो with what's on the ground. अगर एजेंट ने आपसे कहा कि ये वाला खरीदो, वो नहीं खरीदो, आप क्वेश्चंस पूछो. और वही कस्टमर आपसे पूछ रहा है कि यहाँ पे क्या आ रहा है, रोड आएगा, पानी की प्रॉब्लम है, बिजली की प्रॉब्लम है, ये सब कंज्यूमर्स आपसे पूछते हैं. इट्स गुड फॉर अ मार्केट. आपका मार्केट और स्ट्रेंथन होता है जब आपका कंज्यूमर ये आपसे पूछता है, क्योंकि कंज्यूमर इज that means the consumer is serious about it. Now let's talk about GST. Rajesh, what has been the impact of GST on your business?
You see, GST
has given encouragement to the to sell completed projects. So this policy unfortunately discourages people to buy under construction projects, and that is a very big setback for all under construction projects, not only mine, but basically everywhere. And,
But doesn't the input credit offset some part of that?
input credit does offset, but just like this gentleman out here said, people feel that the 100% GST will be subsumed by the developer, and that is the place where the developer gets stuck. 100%, there are so many catches in this GST policy itself. Now, if the input tax credit which you have taken, if you have unsold inventory in the end, that input tax credit does not get credited to your pockets, it gets reversed. And I cannot at this point of time predict whether my 50% flats will be sold, or 90% will be sold, or 40% will be sold. So it's a very big, it's a very tricky situation as far as that calculation goes. So GST, to my mind, has confused a lot of people, especially the buyers. And buyers are not, to be blamed, because they always have a feeling every buyer wants to buy at the lowest price. So they want the lowest part of the curve to be entering into a deal. So, when they say that we want zero GST, usually that is what he said, and most of the brokers must also be feeling. And most of the buyers say 8% to sabhi de rahe. If a person comes with the affordable housing, the developer will say 12% नहीं है हमारा 8%. So he said 8% तो सभी दे रहे हैं, आप इसमें और क्या discount है? So, and if that person says 4%, then why not 2%? If he is giving 2%, then why not 0? So, there is no end to that expectation.
Actually,
so that is a problem which has
2 or 3 policies came together.
Yes.
RERA आया, 2 महीने के बाद GST आया, और completion was the first criterion. तो developers complete करने लगे, उस टाइम GST का ये लग गया. अगर completed है तो GST नहीं लग रहा था. Developers ने advertise किया no GST. कंज्यूमर समझ गया कि नो जीएसटी एक नॉर्म है, तो अब सब कह रहे हैं आप कंस्ट्रक्ट कर रहे हो, अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन जो भी है हमें बिना जीएसटी के दे दो. यही मार्केट में हो रहा है. एंड एक्चुअली इट वाज अ वैमी, बिकॉज 2 पॉलिसीज, वेरी क्रिटिकल पॉलिसीज, एक के बाद एक आ गए. Chirag, you develop in a higher segment, right? How much GST input credit do you get, and does it offset sufficiently?
Yes, I mean, fortunately for me, I've been getting decent sales. So I've been in a situation where I've not been de-benefited by GST, but there are clients that come with the intention that जो मैं GST भरूंगा फ्लैट के अगेंस्ट, उसका मुझे इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट मिल जाएगा. But there's a big, there are a lot of buyers out there who still think that उनको इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट मिलेगा 12%. But that is not the case. Even if you take it in a company's name, it is not going to help. Input tax credit is nullified because you are the end user. Input tax credit is only given to people who are not end users. But for the end users, there is no input tax credit.
Actually, input tax credit है, ये एजेंट्स को समझना चाहिए. इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट वो है जो डेवलपर को मिलता है. सो जब जीएसटी आया, जो ऑनगोइंग प्रोजेक्ट्स थे उसमें जो इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट डेवलपर को मिल रहा था वो 3 से 4%, कभी 5% भी था. और वो अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन प्रोजेक्ट्स जो जीएसटी जब लगा था, वो उन प्रोजेक्ट्स में डेवलपर 3-4% ड्रॉप करके फिर 12% जीएसटी चार्ज कर रहा है, उस प्रोजेक्ट पे चार्ज कर रहा था. मगर वो फॉर एवर नहीं है. जो आज प्रोजेक्ट डेवलपर लॉन्च कर रहा है उस पे जीएसटी ऑलरेडी, इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट ऑलरेडी सबस्यूम्ड है, उन्होंने वो कंसिडर किया है. और जो नए प्रोजेक्ट्स लॉन्च हो रहे हैं उसमें अब और आपको ड्रॉप इन प्राइस जीएसटी नहीं मिल सकता है. और ये आपको कंज्यूमर को समझाना चाहिए, क्योंकि कंज्यूमर पिछले 2 साल में काफी कंफ्यूज हो गया है कि कहीं जीएसटी आया, कहीं रेरा आया, कहीं इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट आया, सीएलएसएस आया, सारे पॉलिसीज एक साथ आ गए. तो कंज्यूमर आपसे कई सवाल पूछेंगे जिसके शायद आपके पास जवाब हो, कुछ जवाब ना भी हो, मगर अगर जवाब नहीं है तो if you come back, you are all our partners. If you come back to Magic Bricks and post these as questions, what we do is we go back to the industry and ask the industry to clarify. जैसे देवेंद्र है, ये लॉयर हैं और ये रियल एस्टेट पे स्पेशलाइज करते हैं, तो जो भी हमारे पास क्वेश्चंस आते हैं हम इनको वापस भेज देते हैं और इनसे आंसर्स लेके आपको वापस आंसर्स देते हैं. So if there is, you need to become more proactive, you need to become more interactive. So let's go on with the GST dialogue. Julie, what has been your experience with the GST?
What I really wanted to add on the point that, like everybody else said, that there was no such shift in demand of ready possessions when GST came in. When GST came in, we had two projects going on which we were selling. One was a ready to move in, and one was a very initial stage of construction. Say the plinth was going on. In spite of GST coming in, there was no change in the demand for the one which was in a very initial stage. It could be the location or what, both of them are in the prime locations. The main reason I feel that, again we talk about subvention schemes. When people are willing to pay more in a subvention scheme, they typically are paying more for the same flat. What are they really looking at? They're looking at the timelines at which they are being delivered the flat. So again, that difference between a ready to move in and an under construction property will always stay, be it GST coming in or the high prices in subvention. So it's all on the preference. Also, I want to add on the point which was, the discussion going on, that what is the buyer actually, what do you tell the buyer? That currently, तो क्या उसके value added points हैं, वो तो बताने ही हैं, but when in the segment which I'm catering to, they are looking at a flat for 15 years at least that they're going to stay in. So what is the value over the 15 years and how they have to plan their life around this dream house, as we call it, for that segment. So there are multiple ways in which value can be made realized to the region. So just GST also plays the same role.
Manohar, has the industry been asking, talking to the GST Council about repositioning GST levels from 12% to lower?
Yeah, recently some of the developers met the finance minister and they proposed a 5% GST to the GST Council, and they said we'll get back to you, let us think over it, we'll get back to you. And soon another meeting is going to take place. Let us hope for the best. At least if we are making it 5% GST, so I think earlier we used to pay 4.5% service tax. Instead of that, if we are paying 5% GST, a lot of improvement will come in the market and things will move further.
Let's take one round of closing remarks from the panelists, and then we'll open it to the house if you have anything to add. Prashant. The Navi Mumbai market, new policies, new infrastructure, lots of buyers, lots of queries. How do you see the market?
See, in my opinion, Navi Mumbai is the market which needs to be nurtured and which needs to be, kind of protected. Because you see, since in spite of all the group, this is the standing spot. So it runs the risk of attracting too much of, investors' interest with deep pocket who have long waiting period. And when this starts to happen, the end users are in a way driven because the price starts to shoot up. So number one, what we need to look at stakeholders is that that we need to protect the value proposition of this micro market. Second is when we talk to the consumers, we need to highlight the unique aspects, not just the smaller parts like this when we talk about the current market, but we also need to show them the comparative study. We need to talk about not only that the value of price that we're getting, but look at the quality of life. The air quality is far better than other cities. The congestion time, the concept of walk to work culture, which is gaining prominence. So this will you resonate with the current buyers. And when it comes to policy, rightly said, there is a lot of moving balls around. There is a lot of policy that has been thrown to the end user. So how do we educate our consumers? I think if we are not aware of the policies like the Awas Yojana, the subsidy scheme, we will not be able to convey that to this consumer. So I think the onus is on us to kind of get updated on all these policies and communicate with the client. But we as stakeholder, we need to kind of ensure that Navi Mumbai market does not enter the speculative zones like NCR. We have seen what happened over there. The IT case infrastructure was very good, employment zones were coming, but again the investors. So this is what I would like to convey from this guys.
I think this is the right time to buy the property because prices are bottomed out and because of area, a lot of confidence is there in the customer and the time limit is there. So I think this is the right time for consumers to buy. I think we brokers to convince the customers to buy the property at Always.
I think what New Jersey is to New York, what downtown is to Dubai, Navi Mumbai is to Mumbai. And in fact, all the channel partners over here are the medium to what Navi Mumbai can be and is.
Yeah, I hope by the pace that the developers have been building construction all around Navi Mumbai, even the infrastructure that is related to Navi Mumbai also takes off at that pace. We would want, even though the Navi Mumbai airport has taken its own pace, its own time, I would want other infrastructure developments which have been promised also take off on the same pace. And because that is really critical, because a lot of hopes have been dependent on these infrastructure developments. I hope all the brokers here and the channel partners agree with me here, and I hope they keep on doing the amazing job that they do, because Navi Mumbai is a broker-driven market, and I hope they keep up the good work. Thank you.
Devendra, what is it that the brokers need to know in the Navi Mumbai market, and what is it that the consumer needs to know in the Navi Mumbai market from a legal point of view, from a policy perspective?
From a legal perspective, I think the USP for Navi Mumbai market is the title. I think you cannot have better title than the government's title.
वो आपका एक सेलिंग पॉइंट है. नवी मुंबई में टाइटल का प्रॉब्लम नहीं आएगा. गवर्नमेंट ने लैंड दिया है, गवर्नमेंट का टाइटल क्लीन होता है, तो दिस इज समथिंग दैट आई एम श्योर मेनी ऑफ योर कंज्यूमर्स नो. अगर आप नवी मुंबई किसी क्लाइंट को बेच रहे हैं, आप बता सकते हैं कि यहाँ पे टाइटल का इश्यू नहीं आएगा.
स्मॉल करेक्शन, टाइटल का प्रॉब्लम नहीं आएगा ऐसा नहीं है.
Actually, I come from NCR. NCR में गवर्नमेंट ने, ग्रेटर नोएडा अथॉरिटी ने डेवलपर्स को लैंड दिया था, और फिर सबसे बड़ा इशू ये आया था कि फार्मर्स ने ज्यादा कॉन्सेंट्रेशन मांगा और वही टाइटल जो अथॉरिटी दे रही थी उसमें प्रॉब्लम्स आई थी. नवी मुंबई में एक्चुअली एक गवर्नमेंट अथॉरिटी से जब लैंड आता है तो वन अज्यूम्स दैट टाइटल का इशू नहीं आना चाहिए. कुछ जाहिर है इश्यूज आ भी रहे हैं, so you can continue.
I think title is the USP, so that is what brokers need to sell to prospective customers in Mumbai.
Rajesh, something that he mentioned, Navi Mumbai needs to be nurtured. It's a market that needs to be nurtured. एक हमारा just as an aside, last year, a few months ago, हमने नवी मुंबई फर्स्ट जो एसोसिएशन राजेश प्रजापति उसके पार्टनर हैं, मनोहर श्रॉफ उसमें है, और सारे स्टेक होल्डर्स उसमें इन्वॉल्व हैं, और हमने वर्ल्ड एनवायरनमेंट डे पे एक छोटा सा इवेंट किया था जिसमें सारा ऑल द द गवर्नमेंट अथॉरिटीज वर ऑल देयर. कॉन्वर्सेशन ये था कि नवी मुंबई एक तो नया मार्केट है, सेकेंड थिंग ये है कि नवी मुंबई एक बहुत बायोसेंसिटिव मार्केट है. यहाँ इकोलॉजी, ये वेस्टर्न घाट्स है, पूरे इंडिया का रेनफॉल नवी मुंबई के माउंटेन्स में ब्रेक होता है, और इंडियन मानसून इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन द वेस्टर्न घाट्स. आप यहाँ पे डेवलप कर रहे हैं, यहाँ पे अगर आपने इस एरिया को नर्चर नहीं किया इकोलॉजिकली, जो आज केरला सफर कर रहा है कल नवी मुंबई में भी हो सकता है. तो एज participants and stakeholders of Navi Mumbai, नेचर ने दिखा दिया कि अगर आप नेचर को प्रोटेक्ट नहीं करेंगे, उसको रिस्पेक्ट नहीं करेंगे, तो क्या हो सकता है. पूरा इतना वाइड स्प्रेड डिस्ट्रक्शन हुआ है. तो नवी मुंबई, आई थिंक आई वांट टू लीव विद द थिंग दैट you need to nurture. And Rajesh, maybe you would like to make a closing statement of.
Actually, legally, yes, title more or less is quite the USP of our city. But when you see the social aspects, I think livability is the most, like I said earlier also, the person who has come to live in Navi Mumbai just loves it. And it has been proved also, it has come number 2 in the most livable cities in India. So,
and you can clap for
it's something. This livability, because as I said in my opening remarks also, once a person is here, he does not feel like going to Bombay at all. So, I cannot even think of going from west of any node to the east of node in 1 hour. That is something unthinkable. तो लिवेबिलिटी जो है वो आपको बताना है लोगों को कि भाई द बेस्ट लिवेबल सिटी it's not only because of the roads etc. It is also pollution. अभी हम लोगों ने जो एक ये किया था नवी मुंबई फर्स्ट के माध्यम से तो एनवायरमेंट डे पे तो उसमें एक लिख के आया था कि जो पोल्यूशन के लिए जो एक सर्वे होता है ऑल ओवर वर्ल्ड उसमें जैसे मोस्ट पोल्यूटेड सिटी 100 में से मार्क्स दिए गए थे तो ज्यादा मार्क्स मतलब ज्यादा पोल्यूशन इस टाइप का है तो जैसे कानपुर वगैरह को 95 96 के आसपास पॉइंट्स मिले थे दिल्ली गॉट 91 और sorry Delhi got 91
Delhi was above 100
above
Delhi's pollution is above 100 above
permissible limit but it got 91 points out of 100
yes
इस तरीके से if you see in that so Navi Mumbai was one of the cities which was hardly at around 50
and it was a clean city
and it was a very clean city sewage management में 8th rank आया फर्स्ट रैंक आया तो ये रैंकिंग जो है जो पोल्यूशन का जो इंडेक्स है तो नवी मुंबई का आप लंदन का भी जो पॉइंट्स है दैट इज 60 हमारा जो है वो 50 पे इवन थाने इज 77 बॉम्बे इज 85 so you can consider even so Navi Mumbai इसलिए लोगों को ज्यादा अच्छा लगता है it is not there is a scientific basis also now why we used to feel that why we feel good in Navi Mumbai and then we feel a little drained out when we go out there so USP yes what he said rightly legally the land is more clear not absolutely clear because there are quite a few cases which have happened so more clear than the counterpart livability is phenomenally good as compared to any other city in India, I would say. And that is why people want to buy more in this city. They don't want to buy here, there, everywhere. They बोलते हैं कि हम यहाँ पे कमाएं, हम यहाँ पे और पैसा डालें. So these are the few things which you can tell the prospective buyers कि नवी मुंबई इतना डेवलपेबल है, लिवेबल है, इतना टाइटल उसका क्लियर है, इतना उसमें नया ग्रोथ सेंटर्स है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर आने वाला है, तो और आपको क्या चाहिए? आई मीन फ्यूचर इज सेफ एंड आई थिंक दैट द बेस्ट पर्सन कैन होप फॉर मुंबई ऑल द डे. दैट्स व्हाट आई से.
Can I have some closing remarks from the audience?
We have a question.
Yes.
So this question is from my client, Mr. Bomish. He's not really well, so he asked me to on his behalf to ask the question. So he is in a couple of luxury segment across Thane and Navi Mumbai. So his question was, अगर commercial and residential में if any investor is investing around 1 CR or more than 1 CR, how should a broker convince a buyer that he should invest 1 CR or more than that as an investor, whereas he would get a return of, even if we count as a return of 1%, he'll be getting 1 lakh a month. Whereas if we put it up on if he invests in a commercial or maybe in a residential, the return would go up to around 30 or 50k a month. So that's what his question was. So how do we convince the buyer on this point?
First of all, round of applause for Mr. Shah.
First of all, let me repeat your question. So basically, example, somebody has a crore of rupees to invest, and the question was how do you convince him to invest in residential and not in commercial?
No, ROI. Either in commercial.
Okay, so for example, see, both these asset classes have different rates. For example, let's say if you are investing 1 CR in residential, first of all, the ticket size for commercial would be definitely bigger. As you know, it comes around other several aspects. But if you have to invest in residential, there are two things that you do. One is definitely a rental rate, which obviously is not very high, and capital appreciation. But if as an advisor, if I have to say, to be very honest, I have been facing this question. We have been advising to invest in commercial people, something like this. I know I'm digressing from the fact, but the reason is the yields are a bit on the higher side. But let's say if you really want to push the residential bit of it, you need to kind of say that it's more of a hassle-free investment. For commercial, I think you need to be more sure of the market dynamics. You're dependent on your other economic factors. But for residential, the dependency is less. The legal work required for a residential property and maintaining is lesser than a commercial property. So this is one argument that I would give. But the bottom line remains, is that there are certain pockets where we as advocates, we have been kind of certain, we being a pure residential player, we have been advising few of the clients in investing in commercial rather than residential. But this again in certain pockets. And we follow the same philosophy that we should advise a client what suits and what is best for them. So you'll have this situation where you see that commercial makes more sense than residential.
There are actually, you should, when a person comes with 1 crore on the table and he's saying I'm putting it in investment, the first thing he needs to understand is real estate is not a liquid investment. अगर आपने real estate में डाल दिया तो it depends on the market cycle when you can exit the market. जब market tank कर रहा है, markets have shown a downside, you will not be able to exit and you will have to stay invested for a longer time if the market goes into a negative cycle. But real estate is a 12-year cycle. You see that कभी ये होता है कि 6 years up, 6 years down. This time it has been a longer down, and then the markets have started stabilizing and rising up now. The second thing is that residential gives you, on an average, if you take a countrywide average, 1 to 1.5% return in residential. The amount you invested in the residential property, the rental returns are smaller, much smaller. In commercial, you get a return of about 8 to 9%. 7 to 9% is the band in which you get rental returns. But rental returns also is dependent on the property being rented out. So when you invest in commercial property, all commercial property across the board don't fetch you the same rental returns. When you're looking at, say, if it's a shop, commercial also includes retail. If you invest in a shop, think about how much residential, how much footfall there will be in that area. If you can predict that it will have good footfalls, then the amount of rental return you get out of that retail commercial is larger than if you invest in a place just because it's a shop. Shop A and shop B don't perform similarly. Similarly, office properties. If it is 1 crore is a very small investment in the commercial space. For residential, it is sufficient, but commercial के लिए वो एक छोटा investment है. So you have to be very careful about what you advise your client about where you have to invest. If it is a commercial properties, there are some office properties which have future potential and which are today in the 1 crore segment, and you may be able to get that, but that is few and far between. So with a 1 crore investment, you have to be very careful about where you invest.
अगर देखते हैं तो कमर्शियल में इन्वेस्टमेंट कर दो लेकिन आपको बेनिफिट बहुत ज़्यादा है. So what are your plans for attracting the investor for commercial project?
Commercial project, as you said, investment करने पे रिटर्न ज़्यादा होता है. So in our project which you mentioned, we have actually major amount of investors in it. More than in our residential projects, we have completed 11 residential projects before that. I have had more investors for my commercial project this time. So they were already aware of the thing that they are investing into and the perks that they will derive from that.
See, I feel there has to be a strategy behind commercial investment. You can't just invest and think कि हाँ return आ जाएगा. So you have to have a strategy behind the location, behind what kind of buyer you're going to sell later on, how you're going to exit, or how you're going to rent it out. So there has to be a strategy. Until you don't have a strategy in place, I would highly not recommend investing until you have the strategy in place, especially for showrooms. We've seen so many showrooms around the Vashi, Navi Mumbai, Palm Beach area going unsold. Because
there are many projects which are mostly received, but even though 60% of the inventories are there to sell.
So there has to be a strategy behind. If I would say offices in Navi Mumbai at least have a higher rate of return rather than the showrooms.